I'm Carl Mottern. I'm a retired first-class petty officer, anti-submarine warfare operator, naval air crewman. Working up to a med cruise. We also did a summer cruise to South America, to Brazil in June, July of 1977. And we deployed for a 6-month med cruise at the end of September with carrier Air Wing 6 on board USS America. My duties were air crewman on the Sea King helicopter. As I became more senior, I started out as primarily what was called the second crewman. I had to carry what was called the SAR bag full of my own gear, rescue fins, mask, wetsuit. My second primary duties were as sonar operator, radar operator. The senior crewman on board that day would be in charge. Had there been a rescue, the junior guy would dress in the gear and jump into the water. The senior crewman would be the dry crewman and run the hoist and the communications with the pilot. The other part of the job was the submarine chasing. We had a 500-foot cable with a sonar on board, radar for detecting surface ships and submarine snorkels. We kept an eye on the Soviet fleet. That was our main job in the Med, was to provide NATO presence of carriers for the NATO commitments to the defense of the Mediterranean countries. We did a lot of practice submarine hunting with U.S. boats, acting as Soviet boats. The Soviets would have penetrated the battle group, would have been subject to our torpedo attack, and we could launch torpedoes and act as a surveillance eyes for the ship itself. I found that very interesting as well. It was not glamorous. The helicopter was kind of the stepchild of the air wing. The jet fighters, the F-14s, and the A-6s and A-7s, they got all the big headlines. The helicopter was just there. But when a rescue needed to be made, the pilots from those planes were always glad to see the helicopter. So we had that in the back of our pocket every time we went flying. So as I got more senior, I became the dry crewman, training the younger crewmen, the newer crewmen, and pre-flighting the helicopter, checking our equipment, making sure that the junior crewman was doing his job. The biggest part was if we ever had to do a rescue, once he jumped in that water, you were his eyes and ears, and you had to make sure that he got back on board with the victim should that ever take place. I never made any rescues, but I was ready, and we practiced that a lot. That was a big part of our job being on that ship, was the rescue plane guard capabilities that our helicopter had. And HS-15 never lost a man in the water that I know of. We got every pilot or crewman that had to eject, or every man overboard during my time on board was found and rescued by my squadron. It's a big proud accomplishment when my squadron was retrieving everybody that got wet. But those are good memories. I kind of was a slave to the flight schedule. I did stand 12-hour ready room watches when I wasn't flying, answering the phone, taking messages for the squadron duty office. I basically answered to a flight schedule. I might fly in the morning, I might fly later at night, I might fly several times a day, I might fly back to back. So aboard the ship, my routine was kind of based very much on the flight cycle. And I enjoyed that part of it. There was nothing I would rather do than get back in a helicopter, an old Sea King helicopter today, and relive some of that experience that I did in 1977 as a 20-year-old. So that part of it I miss every single day. friends I made there, I've still got them. They're here at this reunion now. So that part of it I wish I could do all over again. And you know, you start remembering the good times, and sort of as you get older, you minimize what went wrong. You say, hey, it was just all part of growing up, part of process of life. But there's very little time of my 20 years in the Navy that I would not do over again. But boy, I wish every day I could have gone back to crewing on helicopters again. That was just something I miss. The hard work, it was all part of it. I think we all adjusted at that age. You know, people complained, we were gone a lot, but what you hear in retrospect is that, man, I miss that. I enjoyed that. I wish I could do that again. I wish that I could go back. You hear a lot of that, and you know those bad memories, for whatever reason, people kind of push those aside and say it wasn't so bad. And you know, if you remember the good stuff and wish you could do it over again. And that's, and looking back now, 40-some years later, probably the most interesting and exciting times of my life at that point. And to this day, I miss that every day, and wish I had appreciated more at the time. Continued on with HS-15 until June of 1979, when the Air Wing with HS-15 transferred to USS Independence. And when I checked out, I left a lot of friends, and I didn't realize how much I enjoyed that squadron until I had left. And the Navy for the next 16 years was never quite that exciting or interesting again. I made a lot of friends along the way in the next 16 years, but that first year, those first 4-year tour with HS-15 and was probably some of the best times of my life at that point.